Hello and welcome to Health Africa on AAU TV. On this program, we discuss health-related issues, we raise awareness as well as seek solutions through our discussions. My name is Isabella Teta Hinakwa, and in today's episode, we will be looking at how higher education is not only fostering research and innovation, but also plays a crucial role in developing our healthcare system through student-led research. We'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, I will introduce the topic, our guest for today, as well as start with the discussions. Please stay tuned. You're welcome back from the break. If you just joined, this is Health Africa on AAU TV. You can as well follow our discussions on our social media handles at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube. Now, like I said earlier before the break, today we'll be looking at how higher education is developing our healthcare system through student-led research. And today, we are honored to have here with us, joining us virtually, a dedicated student who has conducted a groundbreaking research in the field of glaucoma diagnosis. Now, our guest for today is Dr. Emmanuel Adato, who is a graduate of the University of Cape Coast. He is also an intern optometrist at the university's hospital eye unit, as well as a research associate with the Glaucoma Club. Hello, Dr. Adato. You're welcome to Health Africa.
Thank you very much, Ms. Isabella, and then good morning to all your lovely listeners.
Great.
So, as you said, my name is Emmanuel Adato, Dr. Emmanuel Adato. I'm an intern optometrist, and I recently graduated from the University of Cape Coast. At the moment, I intern at the University of Cape Coast Hospital Eye Unit, and then also I'm a research associate or an assistant with the Glaucoma Club and Support Group, where we do research basically in glaucoma. And then also I am a research associate also with the diagnostic visual function and then research lab.
Thank you once again for joining us today. Now, to begin with, we would like to know what inspired you to pursue research in glaucoma diagnosis.
So, first of all, I would like to talk about what glaucoma is. So generally, glaucoma is a group of eye conditions that affects the optic nerve of the eye and then can potentially cause blindness. Now, when we talk about the optic nerve, it's a nerve that connects the eyeball to our brain, okay? And then you can think of it as a TV with a cable connection connected to a power source. If the connection between the cable and then the TV or the power source and the TV is broken, then the TV does not on. Okay, so that's how glaucoma is. What happens is it results in progressive damage to that connection between the eyeball and the brain. And then once it damages the optic nerve, okay, which is that connection, then the human eye ceases to see. So it results in blindness. Okay, so glaucoma is a disease that can potentially result in blindness, and the blindness is such that it's irreversible, which means that when the nerves are lost and blindness occurs, we cannot get the nerves back. In essentially, that's what it means. And worldwide, the prevalence of glaucoma is measuring at a staggering amount of 3.54%. That's with studies that have been done globally on prevalence of glaucoma. And the situation is much worse when we take a look at the African continent. And then the situation even there when we look at Ghana in particular. And the prevalence of glaucoma in Ghana is at 7.89%, which is very high. That is to say that when we sample about 100 people, randomly sample 100 people within our country, we have approximately 8 people having glaucoma. And that is worrying, okay? Because it translates to loss of human resources which are needed for nation building and then nation development. Now, one thing about glaucoma too is that It is unlike other diseases like malaria that comes with symptoms. Glaucoma is asymptomatic. You will be there one day, and then, the next morning you wake up and then you realize that your vision has deteriorated or you can't see anymore. Unlike malaria, where you will have body pains and fever and all of that, glaucoma doesn't come that way. So it doesn't have any symptoms. It doesn't come with any peculiar symptoms for you to notice that, oh, I am having this problem. Okay. So one thing that challenge that clinicians face is being able to diagnose the disease, and for that matter, being able to diagnose is quite early, because it is only upon early diagnosis that we can, give the necessary intervention to save the sight of the person involved. And because it is symptomatic, clinicians face challenge of, diagnosing it. So they use series of tests. Okay, we have tests including the OCT. Sometimes when you go to the eye clinic, they tell you to go for OCT scans, and then the VFT scans. So they use that to sort of give them an idea of whether or not you have glaucoma. Okay. Now, these scans produce voluminous amounts of information that are sometimes difficult for even the clinician to understand. Okay, so that leads to misdiagnosis sometimes. So we aimed to, what inspired us was to find a way around it to help clinicians in clinic to, be able to diagnose glaucoma in its early forms and as efficient as possible. Okay, so we combined all these metrics, all the clinicians, other patients to take, and then we used it to train machine learning algorithms. Okay, and then we built a model for diagnosis. So our main focus, or what inspired us, was to be able to do something that works for the African continent, because the disease has a high burden on the African continent. So that was the main the main factor that drove us to exploring this field.
Thank you very much. Now, you just made mention of machine learning as part of your research to improve glaucoma diagnosis. Now, how does this contribute to your field of eye care, especially with the machine learning, when we currently are delving into the digital era?
So basically, machine learning there has been a recent machine learning and artificial intelligence in the field of healthcare and in so many industries. Okay. Now, one thing about computers or machine learning is that they are objective in their diagnosis, and with human comes some little room of error. Okay. But when you use machines in these instances, the margin of error, once the algorithms have been trained with the appropriate data, and then they have been optimized well, the margin of error is reduced. Unlike when humans are involved, where you have some little error here and there. So our software sort of increases the accuracy and efficiency of glaucoma diagnosis, particularly in the African continent, where the disease burden is actually highest. Okay, yeah. So that is what we bring to the table in terms of contributing to the field of.
Right. So now that you are done with school and also done with your research, if you can share with us your findings, what were your findings? What were you able to come up with, especially with your product? And how are people going to use it, especially the clinicians? How are they going to use it?
Okay. So basically our findings. Okay, we, after training the models, after training the algorithms, what we did was to build a software. Okay, and we're using the model as the backbone, and then we deployed it. Okay, we deployed the software into operation. So we currently have a software that a clinician sitting in their office can just access, and then key in certain details from the scans, and then be rest assured that it's going to give them a diagnosis.
Diagnosis.
Yeah. So basically that was the key highlight of our research. And then also we realized that when we look at glaucoma, there are so many things that we'll have to consider, or clinician will have to consider before they make a diagnosis. And one key thing is about assessing degree of structural damage to the retinal nerve fibers. Okay, so at the back of the eye is the retina. Okay, and then the fibers are the ones that sense every light stimulus that come into the eye. Okay, and then we have the ganglion cell complex. Now, what glaucoma does is the damage occurs at the ganglion cell complex and then the retinal nerve fiber layer. Okay, so it causes progressive damage to those fibers there. And our research made us find out that if we want to really identify very early forms of glaucoma, then the clinician should focus on the ganglion cell complex. Okay, because that is where the damage or the much of the damage occurs. So we're able to train and then be able to know the performance of all the metrics and then measure which ones give a better ability to detect or diagnose glaucoma. And we found out that that was the ganglion complex. And then also our software gives a more objective and efficient way of diagnosing glaucoma with human intervention, of course. But I mean, combined with human intervention, it gives a better diagnosis.
Right. So if I understand,
one last thing that we also found out was the fact that
no, you can continue.
I'm listening.
Please.
Okay.
No,
so
you can
one last thing that is also important with our findings is that when patients come into our clinics, most clinicians want to measure their intraocular pressure, intraocular pressure. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Eye pressure. They say when your pressure is high, when your eye pressure is high, then it's possible that you have glaucoma. Okay, but what we found out was that you can't just use these single metrics as a standalone to diagnose glaucoma. It is better, or your diagnosis is more enhanced when you combine, a little bit of OCT, when you combine a little bit of VFT, and when you combine a little bit of IOP. It gives a better diagnosing than just using someone's age or using their and them. It gives a better diagnosis.
So you keep mentioning OCT, which is the optical coherent tomography. Well, if you can,
with our research.
All right, great. So you keep mentioning OCT, which is the optical coherent tomography, right? So if you can explain what is the beneficial of it and how does it impact your research findings, because I know you add it's part of the requirements. If you want to use your software that you created, you need to have a result from that test. If you can tell us what it is and how impactful it is to your research.
Okay, so earlier on I made mention of certain scans being required by clinicians before a diagnosis is made. So let me speak of 4 key things that you need to make diagnosis of glaucoma. You need structural damage assessment to the retinal nerve fiber layer, and that can be done with the OCT, the optical coherence tomography, which you rightly said. So they tell you to go and take a scan, OCT scan, and for that it gives a result that the clinician can interpret to know the degree of damage or the extent of the damage that is occurring to the retinal nerve fiber layer and the ganglion cell complex. And then also we have another test we call the VFT, which is the visual field test. Now that is sort of a functional test. You realize that when glaucoma occurs, the damage is structural. It occurs to the retinal nerve fiber layer. That can be assessed with OCT. But also how we see, when we have glaucoma can be assessed with visual function test, which is the VFT.
VFT.
When you are looking straight ahead, you are supposed to, when you're looking straight ahead, you unconsciously you're able to see your peripheral sights. People who are or to your right, you can see to an extent, you can see them to an extent. But what glaucoma does is it blurs or it blocks away those peripheral vision, so that when you have glaucoma, you can't see anyone who is to your right or to your left. Okay, you just have your front view only present. Okay, so we test the amount whilst the VFT tells us if you are able to see. Okay, because we have people that they will have damage, which is the retinal nerve fibers, but we did have glaucoma or and our software is able to give an objective overview of whether or not you have glaucoma or you don't have glaucoma.
Interesting. Now, we would be happy to know what some of the challenges you encountered during your research. You know, when it comes to the traditional research, we already have problems, we have challenges, not to talk about you delving into AI in health. What were some of the challenges you faced during your research?
That has to do with these kind of researches, that's with machine learning and AI, has to do with access to data. Okay. For me, I feel we are not really intentional about keeping data. And we are in the era of the AI and machine learning where data is everything. Okay. For you to have insights, for you to be able to generate insights, generate analytics and trends, you will need data so that the data will tell you what is happening. Okay. But you go to our hospitals and then, the data is a little bit unkept. Okay. So it creates challenges when you want to, explore these fields and then develop softwares or develop interventions that works for our population. And for me, one key challenge that we had was access to quality data, which our counterparts in the European world have. So they are intentional about keeping data, and it is more of the reason why they are always one step ahead of us. Okay, because they keep data, the data gives them information, and they're able to use the data to generate stuff that we can't do because we don't have access to the quality data that they do. Yeah.
Now, aside that, were there any challenges you faced in terms of maybe the interest of your samples and all that? Were there any other challenge?
Okay, so we did a retrospective study. Okay, so we used data that already existed. So we didn't face challenge with participants and sampling and all of that. We were able to avoid all those things. But maybe one other extra challenge that we may have faced was computational power. Machine learning and AI, you need very high computational power to be able to run them and then build the models. Sometimes you build the model and then your computer is very hot because the mathematics that's going on, it's unreal. Okay, so I think that was also one challenge that we faced, getting access to high computational.
All right, can you hear me? It looks like today our network is really bad. All right, so we will go for a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to look at how your academic journey actually guided you to your research, and also the role of higher education in developing our healthcare system.
Are you a student seeking to pursue a master's degree program but is constrained by location, time, or simply a hectic schedule? Are you a university or college unable to create or digitize your own master's degree programs due to expertise or funding constraints? AAU eLearn Africa LMS has the answer to all your online education needs. Develop your online master's degree programs now at a totally free cost on a platform that is highly customized and secured. The platform's analytic and proctoring feature, calendar with automatic alerts for activities and to-do list, automatic marking of tests in a variety of formats, optional peer review of written assignments, plugin feature, and several more features are only a few of its important functionalities. With the availability of highly skilled and experienced instructional designers and other staff, universities are assured of online degree programs that meet international standards. Online education provides African universities with competitive positioning, scalable access, multiple nodes, multiple modes of communication, virtual collaboration, and a wider selection of programs. Consequently, online master's degree programs have become a viable option for higher education in Africa due to challenges such as infrastructure, graduate output, and lack of funding. Therefore, partnerships and collaboration between enterprises and academic institutions are needed. Admissions are open for the online degrees with Rhodes Business School South Africa and Njala University Sierra Leone. Also, institutions interested in partnering with us to develop their own online master's degree programs should submit an expression of interest. AAU eLearn Africa LMS provides low-cost online master's degree programs to all students and assists universities to digitize their existing master's degree programs as well as help them develop new ones from scratch. For any enquiries and submission of expression of interest, please email us at info@elearnafricalms.com or aaulms@aau.org. Don't miss out on this opportunity for a global and online educational experience.
You're welcome back from the break. If you just joined, this is Health Africa on AAU TV, and today we are looking at the role of higher education in advancing our healthcare system through student-led research. And we have here with us Dr. Emmanuel Adato, a graduate student from the University of Cape Coast, who is sharing his insights with regards to his research findings in the field of glaucoma diagnosis. Hello, Doc. Thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So to continue with our discussions, we would like to know, you're a graduate now, so we would like to know how your academic journey influenced or impacted on your research interest as well as your research findings.
Okay, thank you. I think growing up, I've always been fascinated about data. Growing up in terms of transitioning from the junior high level to the senior high level, and then I took a gap year before going to the university, and I did a little course in IT. I was fascinated about data, and then what the insights that data can generate for us. I think one key thing that those who are the owners of the tech field, I think one thing that they lack when they want to explore the fields of applying or knowing the intersection between healthcare and technology, I think one challenge that they face is domain knowledge, which is very key. When you want to do machine learning and then artificial intelligence and then apply it to health to generate insights and all of that, you need domain knowledge, and that is what I had. I think that was one positive thing that I had that helped me in the work. As I've already said, I'm an optometrist. So meaning on a daily basis I deal with clinical management of glaucoma and the pathophysiology, what the scans say. When I identified this, I know what it means and all of that. I think it really, really helped me in understanding whatever was happening as we were building the algorithm, and then being able to assess the performance, to know which threshold of performance that we would actually achieve, to know that in fact this model will work or not. So the domain knowledge for me was really, really key, and it helped me in being able to do this work.
Right. So now, in your own perspective, what would you say are the roles of higher education when we talk about developing our healthcare system? How can our higher education institutions impact or also influence in the developmental stage of our healthcare system?
I think, academic institutions are really key in driving developments in all, it's not just the health system. In all sectors, academic institutions are really key because it's from these academic institutions that we have. Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's from these academic institutions that students transition to become the leaders in these various fields of the sectors, including health sector. I believe that some of these institutions drive innovation. Okay, they drive innovation. It is from these institutions that the top researchers are done, and then that is what informs, drives innovation in various sectors as well as research. Okay, the main source of motivation, and I'll make mention of him as we are going along. Motivation, Dr. Andrew Uswansa. He helped me throughout the way. He inspired me to explore this field. And I had to, do a lot, invest time and then energy into it to make sure that it came into a realization. So I believe that the researches that are done in these institutions is what drives innovation. And if we are going to go ahead or go forward as a country and a continent, okay, in getting things that work for us, that is what I believe in. Let's get stuff that work for us, because sometimes when we apply these data from the European world, they have been trained with, them, and then genetically we are a little different from them. So getting things that work for us, exploring research or doing researches that involve us as humans, okay.
Okay, so I like the fact that you made mention when it comes to key research or the top researches, they are done in universities. But one of the challenges researchers and even innovators faces when they are done with their research, it ends up in the shelf. It does not go anywhere. What do you think is a challenge preventing them from getting their research into the market, or even at least getting the interest of people to buy into their findings?
So I think that has to do with doing having key stakeholders, in our university institutions being interested in our research and the studies that they do and the findings that come out of it. If we don't have key stakeholders being interested in it, and when I talk about key stakeholders, I'm looking at NGOs, I'm looking at investment capitalists, I'm looking at the government, okay, in particular as well. The Ministry of Health, the Ghana Health Service, if they are not invested in what is happening at our institutional levels, then it becomes difficult to translate all this research knowledge into, the field, okay. It gets stuck there. For me, I think one exposure that I have had that I'm happy about is we were able to present our work at the Ghana Digital Innovation Week conference last month, and that was an exposure. Okay, it helped me to connect with certain key industry stakeholders and then let them know about what we are doing on our side, on our part as students, to help increase what we know, our knowledge gap, or fill the knowledge gap in terms of healthcare research. And then also we, from our exposure, we were able to connect with the Ghana Research and Industry Innovation. Yeah, so in the coming week, we'll be having an industry brief session where we will, explain our work to them, and then
pitch to them.
Yeah, in a simple format as possible, so that possible upscaling and translation of the work goes on. So if the government is able to come in with all of these interventions and then stakeholders come on board, it helps to not keep the works on the shelf, but rather expand the work and then use it in the field.
And if I'm to add, I think also the interest of the students in pushing to ensure that their research gets outside, it also counts, because it looks like most of the students, they only do it to get the marks, get their certificate, and they move on. That's all. But as to they ensuring that their findings go out to at least solve a problem or gives a solution to a market need, that is not their interest. Yeah. So talking about key stakeholders, back to your research, I would like to know who are the people or the stakeholders you collaborated with to ensure the success of your research.
I think for mine, where collaboration was very key. I have a little knowledge in the tech ecosystem, specifically machine learning, data analytics, and all of that. But that is not enough to be able to come out with something as huge as this. Okay, it required us to collaborate a lot, and I am so grateful to my research team members. They were there for me throughout, the journey. I was doing my independent undergraduate research, and then they were doing theirs as well. But we were able to,
Wow.
combine and then multitask all of these, and then make sure that the
Wow.
software was possible. For that, I would like to extend a great appreciation to Joseph Sambo, who was my UI expert. So he designed the user interface of
The
our
website.
software.
Mm.
And then also Julius Marquis, he conceptualized the API, the logic writing, and all of that. He helped with it. And then one person, Abraham. Abraham, yeah, don't actually. Yeah, so all these guys are from the computer and then IT department in the University of Cape Coast. There's one other person. Yeah, there's one other person, Kwame Anambi. He was also good with the front end computing and all of that. So I mean, we juggled between a lot to make sure that this work came to a realization. I think that we are not islands on our own, and if we want to come out with the most innovative stuff, then collaboration is really, really key. Working together, being able to find the right human resources and then collaborate with them is very key in coming up with these kinds of works.
And if I should ask, is your software ready? Is it being used, or is just still at the trial stage?
So we are at this stage, we are trialing it. So from the Ghana Digital Innovation Week presentation, we went ahead to present the work at the Ghana Optometric Association, their AGM, their 12th AGM, and then scientific section. And then we had insights from their opinions. And at this stage, we are just transitioning to trial with it and then see our population. From there, I believe that we'll just live or host the platform and then get clinicians to use it.
Right. You said at this stage you are moving to the clinical trial.
Yeah, we are transitioning to try out the software and then get it working to see if it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so after the trials, who are you hoping to collaborate with? Who are you hoping to join you in order to ensure that this software, it goes out for almost, even not just Ghana, but maybe clinicians in the whole Africa will be able to use this software? Who are you looking forward? This is the platform for you to call upon and your collaborators to, come to your aid and support your good initiative.
So we are actually hoping to collaborate with anyone that comes up. I mean, anyone with good intention to upskill this work. Our main aim, was to get the work to sync with the electronic medical records, which is found in our district hospitals, and then what have you. We know the private sectors also are there. So private sector individuals and then government especially, we are hoping that they will come on board so that we have scaled the work appropriately and then get it synced with the electronic medical records, so that once a patient comes to sit in front of you in the hospital in your consulting room, you will just on your medical records, the patient's data is now saved on the cloud, and then in future or subsequently when they come for further visits, you just go to the cloud, pull their data, and then you'll be able to view and then analyze and assess whether or not the patient's condition is progressing or what have you. You get it? So that is the main thing that is the main motive behind the software, to be able to upscale it, get it on electronic medical records, so that clinicians all over Ghana and then even in Africa can use it.
And so, talking about upscaling the software, how do you think this is also going to influence health policies?
From this, in Ghana, if per my knowledge, if I am not wrong, we don't have an outline, or as it were, lay down protocol in glaucoma diagnosis, treatment, and then care for glaucoma patients. We don't have that. I believe that it's about time that we prioritize our condition as glaucoma is very, worrying to our population. And I feel that it's about time that we drafted, a protocol that clinicians will follow to be able to, take care of their patients who have glaucoma, or as it were, examine, diagnose, and then treat them. And we are hoping that this software will now be that, as the patient comes in, the first point of contact is the clinician. Once the clinician sees the patient,
what you are looking forward is when the patients come to the hospital, the first thing is to go to the clinician, and that's where you cut off. We didn't hear from you again.
That, when the patient, we are hoping that when a patient comes to the clinic or the hospital, the first thing that they meet is the clinician. And then once all the data from the clinician end is gathered, they are fed into our software to sort of help to rule out whether or not the patient has glaucoma. Because at the end of the day, it's the clinician that has to sit down and then go through all these voluminous amounts of information to be able to analyze and then identify whether or not the patient has glaucoma. Why don't we allow the software to do that? So that in the case where the patient is diagnosed as normal or abnormal, the clinician will just look at certain fine-tuned details and then be able to, arrive at a diagnostic conclusion. So that is what we are looking at. And that saves clinician and then patients time so that they focus on more important, issues.
Interesting. And also, now being an optometrist at the same time, an associate researcher, what is your future plan? What are you planning to do, especially in the field of health? What are you planning to do in the next 5 years?
So, as I am speaking to you now, I think you already have the idea that I'm fascinated about research.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping to explore the field of vision science and then ocular imaging, and then know where healthcare intersects with research. My key focus is to be able to make discoveries and innovations about solving the African problem, what affects us the most. So that is my main aim. And for the researchers that I'll be, I'll be expecting, or I'll be, hoping for researchers that will solve our problem. Because as it is now, Africans, we have huge problems with regards to our healthcare system. So I'll be in the coming years, I'll be hoping to, know where there is an intersection between our healthcare system and then technology, and then find ways and means to leverage on technology, machine learning, and then artificial intelligence to solve the healthcare problems of the African continent.
Good work with that. And actually, we need people like you, because to be able to identify a gap and also to come up with a solution, it starts with research. So we will need more students like you, more individuals like you who are interested in research to be able to identify our problems and come up with great solutions. We will be wishing you good luck. And also, to wrap up, what will be your advice to other students who are also interested in pursuing research in health related field?
There's a popular adage that says curiosity kills the cat. But for me, I believe that curiosity drives innovation. I believe that curiosity drives innovation. For you to be able to, solve real problems, you need to be curious enough to be able to even find out what is causing this problem, or why this problem exists in the first place, and then explore possible solutions to come up with the best solution that can solve those problems. So what my advice is that students should, be curious all the time. They should be curious and then try to find solutions to our problems. Problems need their doors. So let's find solutions and then, solve our problems as Africans. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel Adato, for your time, and also taking joining us today to share your journey with us. We wish you good luck, like I said, and hoping to see your software being replicated or being upscaling to our healthcare facilities, not in Ghana only, but in the continent as a whole. Thank you for joining us, and see you again. So that is all for today, where we discussed machine learning for glaucoma diagnosis, one of the research of a student of the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Emmanuel Adato. If you just joined, you've not missed. You can follow the discussions on our social media handles at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube. My name is Isabella Teta Hinakwa, and see you again in our next episode. Bye.